What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Open Ultra League where I'm running 3 of my favourite buff Pokemon that I've already showcased this season, including Kyurem, my 100% IV level 50 Shadow Giraffe rig, and Tapu Koko. Now obviously they don't cover each other's weaknesses perfectly, and Steel type leads like Empoleon or Sizzle in particular were quite problematic, but I felt like this team still had play into basically everything. Plus, the most important factor, I really enjoy using these Pokemon. Now I'm sure you guys will know that today is Black Friday, and I'm lucky enough to be partnered with multiple brands that support this channel, so I want to very quickly talk about the G Fuel and Into the AM Black Friday sales. G Fuel is an energy drink aimed specifically towards gamers, and for Black Friday they're running a buy one get one free sale on tons of their products, including all of these flavors that I've got right here. So if you've never had G Fuel before, now is certainly the best time to give it a try. I can personally recommend Miami Nights 2.0 and the Hula Colada as 2 of my personal favorites that are on sale right now. Also, Into the AM is a men's clothing brand, and everything is at least 30% off right now, all the way up to 60% off, including this flannel shirt that I'm wearing right now, which is over 50% off and now only costs £24. Now, I don't think my regular creator codes of Callum for G Fuel and Toast for Into the AM will apply during the Black Friday sale, but it is worth entering them anyways just to check if you can get a further 10 or 20% off. But if you use either the links in the description or in the pinned comment of this video, I will still receive commissions. Anyways, back to the video and let's get into the question of the day. Recently, I've been trying to get a win in the Open Ultra League using a team of 1500 CP Pokemon or below, but unfortunately for me, I haven't been able to get the win just yet, and my biggest issue is that I don't really know what team I'm trying to hard counter. Unlike in the Open Great League, where I think there are quite a lot of very common teams, the Open Ultra League, I guess I just don't play it as often as the Great League. I can't really recognize what teams are super common. For me personally, I haven't run into the same team more than like 2 or 3 times, so it's quite difficult trying to build a team specifically to counter a certain Ultra League team when of course I do have a significant stat product disadvantage. So I want to know from you guys, what do you think is the most common core / team in the Ultra League right now? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Kyurem into Florges. So of course, not a great matchup for me, but typically they are going to be on Trailblaze and Chilling Water, so they don't really have any charge refresher. So I'm going to stay in initially, fire off a Glaciate, grab a shield advantage as well, presumably because the opponent wants to debuff my attack stat. But now I'm going to swap into Giraffe Rig. They go for a Chilling Water. That's fine with me. I'm now going to go for a Psychic Fangs. Of course, Psychic Fangs going to drop their defense. My attack is debuffed there, so now we're dealing pretty much the normal damage we would be dealing. I can go for a second Psychic Fangs with Giraffe Rig, dealing decent damage and getting them very low, but unfortunately, they do just barely manage to fully farm me down. However, I've put them into range where a single Volt Switch will certainly KO. So we're going to come in with Tapu Koko, they full send the Shadow Ball there, going to use my shield, and now they come back in with the Florges. At this point, I'm happy to no-shield this, probably just going to be another Chilling Water, and it is. So now we're going to go for a Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness is going to grab the final shield, so at this point, I'm going to stay in, wait for them to throw here. The opponent is going to fire off another charge move. The fact that they shielded as well probably implies that they are weak to that Tapu Koko in the back. So now we swap into Kyurem. We are forcing them to full send. The opponent goes for the Moonblast, but now they're energy dry. They come in with Feraligatr. I'm going to overfarm as much as possible. Full sending Thunderbolt, getting the one shot there, and I'm just 1 Volt Switch away from a Nature's Madness. And of course, from this range, Nature's Madness gets the KO up against the Florges, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see Kyurem into the world's smallest Como. Oh, that thing looks so funny how small it is. But anyways, we're going to fire off a Glaciate, and now I do have 2 slightly better responses here. Certainly Tapu Koko going to resist everything, but I say swap into Giraffe Rig, and I'm met with a Shadow Feraligatr. So I'm actually not going to throw straight away. Instead, I'm going to shield this. I'm now going to look to massively overfarm, and then fire off the Trailblaze. Psychic Fangs I probably could get away with throwing, but Trailblaze gets the KO. It also boosts up my attack stat, and let's see, the opponent's going to come back in with the Como. Oh, but I'm boosted. I'm going straight for Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs nearly takes them out there. You know what? That confusion is guaranteed to KO, so I might as well just shield. They full send a Clanning Scales. They actually had Empoleon in the back anyway, so honestly don't understand why they didn't come in with the Empoleon up against my Giraffe Rig. But either way, we're going to bait there. They actually call the bait, but the damage is now done. They are going to be double debuffed. I'm actually going to swap into my Kyurem here just to force them to throw all of their energy. Tapu Koko, not the bulkiest Pokemon ever, and whilst, of course, we are a Fairy type and an Electric type Pokemon, we're actually going to take neutral damage from the Sorry, not Steel Wings, the Metal Sounds. But either way, we can come in, go for that Volt Switch farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see Swampert in the lead. So, this is a positive matchup for us. The opponent's going to say swap into a Como-O, and this is a regular-sized Como-O. I'm going to go for a Glaciate here, expecting to grab a shield instantly. And now, I'm going to come in with my Tapu Koko. Of course, I'm going to double resist the Dragon type damage, single resisting the upper hand as well, so not taking too much damage, and I have debuffed them. However, Volt Switch is resisted, so it is slightly uncomfortable considering how positive this should be a matchup for us. But either way, since I've already grabbed the shield, Nature's Madness gets the KO. They're going to come back in with a Swampert, and I'm going straight for a second Nature's Madness. Then I'm actually not going to allow them to fully farm me down, instead swapping into my Giraffe Rig, and the opponent instantly swaps into Togekiss. But this is a fine matchup for me. I'm going straight for Psychic Fangs. They know shield, realizing the next one's going to do more damage. However, there won't be a next one because I can just safely shield up the Aura Sphere, Shadow Giraffe Rig, fully farming them down, coming out with a charge loaded, and the opponent recognizing there is nothing they can do, so they just concede the match. Into next battle, we're going to see Kyurem into Florges once again. So again, not ideal for me, but also not the worst matchup. So I am just going to stay in. They're going to go straight for a Chilling Water, I believe. Obviously, they could be running the Disarming Voice, but they go for the debuff. We then swap into our Giraffe Rig, and they come in with an Armored Mewtwo. So this is definitely a positive matchup for the Mewtwo. However, if they do overfarm here and maybe commit to a full farm down after landing a Dynamic Punch, I will be able to reach a second Trailblaze. I am boosted. So this is going to get them very low. Trailblaze does get them very low. Unfortunately, not quite getting the KO. I assume they're just going to blind throw a Dynamic Punch. So I'm actually going to come in with the Tapu Koko, going to no-shield this, and the opponent does exactly that. The opponent is going to reveal their Florges once again. So at this point, I'm happy to no-shield this. This is just going to be another Chilling Water, and then I'm going to go for a Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness is going to debuff their defense here. Nature's Madness, going to grab a shield, so I swap back into my Kyurem, and I've got a Glaciate. Of course, they're now debuffed. Glaciate, going to grab the final shield. They bank the energy, but they come in with a Corviknight. Now, this is still tricky for me. Tapu Koko, whilst yes, we are an electric type Pokemon, we are very low, so I don't want to be too low to the point where they can actually fully just Sand Attack farm me down here, but the opponent not going to get a boost. I can go for back-to-back Glaciates here. This one is going to deal decent damage, and now my switch clock is up. We also get the Volt Switch through as we swap out there. Huge for me. They fire off the Air Cutter. They come back in with the Florges, but they do have a charge move already. At this point, gonna shield, of course, they go for another Chilling Water there, debuffing my attack stat. Again, gonna debuff their defense with the Nature's Madness, getting them low into range where one Dragon Breath should KO. We should get the KO there, but unfortunately, they get damage registration error. Of course, Chilling Water is resisted, so it doesn't quite KO either, but unfortunately, we do get farmed down there. I think that Corviknight was energy dry, so if we got the snipe with that one Dragon Breath, I probably should have won that game there. But either way, GG's to that trainer. Into the next battle, we see Jellicent in the lead. I tried to catch a Shadow Ball, does not work out for me. The opponent is going to bank another charge move and then swap into Malamar. So that's an interesting play on the opponent's end there, wasting the energy on the Jellicent when they had such a strong response in this Malamar. But either way, they're actually not going to farm me down. Instead, firing off the charge move. Now, I believe they have overfarmed just a little bit, but I can outpace them to a Draco Meteor, so I'm full sending. Draco Meteor, not respected. It gets the one-shot. I'm going to swap out straight away as I have debuffed my attack stats, and they come in with a Shadow Grumpig. So this is quite cool to see, of course. This thing was quite popular a couple of seasons ago when, of course, it got Psywave and Dynamic Punch, but we're going to go for Nature's Madness there. They baited with a Dynamic Punch, which means they can now outpace me. They throw just as I am reaching that charge move. So very good timing there. We wait. I waited to see if the opponent was going to try and make a catch there. They don't. Instead, we go for Nature's Madness. And now the opponent is going to swap out. They bank some energy, but I don't believe they have a charge move fully loaded yet. So we're going to come in with the Kyurem, and I can outpace them to a Glaciate. I throw on CMP with the Shadow Ball, recognizing this is resisted damage. It's going to debuff their attack stat, but it puts them into perfect farm down range. They go for the Shadow Ball there. We can get the Dragon Breath farm down, and if they don't have the move yet, we're one away from the Glaciate, and of course, up against Shadow Grumpig. From this range, it gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. Gonna see Empoleon in the lead. So this is really tricky for me. Gonna say swap into my Shadow Giraffe rig, and the opponent is just gonna choose to stay in here. So the opponent goes for Hydro Cannon, and they are still staying in, so not ideal for me. I would probably prefer if they swap out of this matchup, but we go for Trail Blaze, and the opponent is gonna overfarm here, allowing me to reach a Psychic Fangs. Now, of course, I'm boosted in my attack stat. This is gonna grab a shield back from the opponent, so honestly, not that bad for me. At this point, of course, Hydro Cannon gonna get the KO there. We can come in with the Tapu Koko. I will have to tank another charge move, but I should now be able to fully farm them down. I'm gonna no-shield the first move here. If they do get to a second one, that is unfortunate, but we can fully farm them down there. And now, unfortunately, they come in with a Venusaur. Now, shout out to Pogo Bros, because he called me out recently trying or suggesting for me to try a triple Brave non-bird challenge where you use 3 Pokemon that aren't flying types with Brave Bird to get KOs in the Go Battle League. I actually really want to try this with Tapu Koko, however, I just don't really have any charge TMs at the moment. I wasted all of them on my video yesterday where I was using Pokemon with all the wrong charge moves and fast moves. Don't really know why I did that, because obviously we've got a big move update coming next season. I probably should be saving them up now, but either way, at this point, I am going to shield here. We've already landed the Trailblaze. Unfortunately, they just barely hang on there, and you know what? I am double shielding Giraffe Rig. We already know they've got Lapras in the lead. They're not that great into Giraffe Rig, and they come back in with the Lapras, so now I'm baiting with the Psychic Fangs. Of course, they've already seen the Trailblaze, and now they swap into Cobalion. So here, we're going to go for a Psychic Fangs, and then I'm actually probably just going to stay in this matchup here, force them to throw pretty much straight away. Sacred Sword gets the KO there. We can now come in with a Tapu Koko, and they will be able to reach a Stone Edge. However, this is not going to get the KO, so I can just comfortably go for the full Volt Switch farm down. We actually got the farm down there already. I didn't realize that. So now we overfarm slightly. We go for Nature's Madness, drop in their defense, and this should be fine. The opponent clearly not on Skull Bash. They're going for Ice Beam. Ice Beam is going to two-shot us. However, we can outpace them to a Draco Meteor, and Draco Meteor, a great charge move. They're debuffed. It gets the KO. And I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. I'm going to see a Skeledirge in the lead. So, not the most comfortable matchup for me here. So, I'm going to stay in initially, and then eventually I'm going to swap into my Giraffe Rig, but I swapped at the worst possible time here, basically allowing them to be able to throw straight away and throw on perfect timing. What I was intending to do was swap out like one turn earlier than that. That way they would throw on alignment, and as a result, I would get a full confusion in for free. In the end, it doesn't really matter because they can hard punish me with a Pangoro anyways. But yeah, just really bad because we have to use the shield there, and then we see a Pangoro coming in. I'm going to come in, of course, with the Tapu Koko, and the opponent is going to fire off a charge move. Unless they're running Rock Slide here, I will resist the moves. There you go, and full send a close combat, and now I'm firing off the Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness going to be no shielded there, which is quite unfortunate for me because now, unfortunately, I have to swap out of that matchup. We come in, but they no-shield the Glaciate as well, and now they come in with a Skeledirge. Now here, we throw straight away. The opponent also going to throw straight away, so that is going to be a CMP tie. So right away, I was thinking, you know what? Since I've thrown immediately here, it is very likely that they try and make a catch the next time around, but I ended up throwing anyways, and the opponent does exactly what I was expecting to happen there. They catch the Glaciate. Very nice play. I'm also going to make a catch, but it's not going to help me here, as the opponent is just one Incinerate away from the next charge move. They still have a shield in play. So at this point, of course, a Torch Song will be taking out the Kyurem. Very well played there. Not the best gameplay on my end, but GG's to that trainer. Into the next battle, we're going to see a Corviknight in the lead. So this is an okay-ish matchup for us. Honestly, not too bad if they're not on Iron Head, which typically they're not. Usually they are just going to be on Air Cutter and, of course, going to be on the Payback. Now, here you can't see it, of course, because I threw straight away, but I believe they did get the attack boost on the first Air Cutter. Immediately, I'm going to debuff them so it cancels out. The opponent going to go for another Air Cutter there. This time, they don't get the boost, and I will be firing off a second Glaciate. Of course, you can see that 3 Air Cutters will be enough damage to take me out here, so I will just narrowly lose this in the zero shield scenario. So I'm actually going to shield this. I'm now going to look to overfarm here, and I will fire off a Glaciate just before they reach the next charge move. Glaciate going to be shielded. I then swap. I make a catch onto my Shadow Giraffe Rig, and this is just going to be a debuffed Air Cutter, so it doesn't deal that much damage. They're going to come in with a Skeledirge. I'm going to go straight for a Psychic Fangs. Of course, Psychic Fangs going to debuff the defense. They shield the first one, and then they throw immediately, and that is going to allow me to reach another Psychic Fangs. But not only that, after we land this, if this doesn't KO, which it probably won't do, I can now land another Confusion before the Incinerate damage registers, and we're able to take them out. And then swap straight away into Tapu Koko. I don't know what's in the back, but whatever it was weak to Tapu Koko, so I'm able to take that game. So, GG to up on there, into the next battle, we're going to see a Dragonite in the lead. So, of course, they're likely going to be on Superpower and Thunder Punch. They could just go for a Superpower and dip, or they could go for a Thunder Punch bait. Either way, I'm going to shield the first move, and they do bait with that Thunder Punch. But that's fine with me. I'm going to fire off the Glaciate, and then I'm going to try and bank another Glaciate, and then swap out of this matchup. But the opponent has the same idea. They end up swapping at the same time, but they come in with the Skeledirge. Now here, I'm trying to throw on good timing. However, unfortunately, I do allow them to throw on perfect timing there, so definitely not ideal. And also because I don't throw straight away there, this isn't as good as the previous matchup up against the Skeledirge because I hadn't debuffed them yet. So now, of course, Psychic Fangs number 2 barely does not get the KO. I needed to throw slightly earlier there with that first one. Torch Song gets the KO, but I can come in with the Tapu Koko. The opponent swapping out immediately there, trying to snipe with the Dragonite, but it backfires as I came in with the Tapu Koko. We get the full farm down. They're going to have a Swampert in the back, and now I can go straight for Nature's Madness. Kyurem does have a Glaciate loaded, so we come in, we overfarm just slightly there, fire off the Glaciate. Glaciate gets the KO with the debuff to their defense. We can Dragon Breath, farm them down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to up on there, into the next battle, we can see Empoleon in the lead once again. So once again, not ideal, going to be safe swapping into my Shadow Giraffe rig, and I am always going to shield the first charge move. Just a word of advice for people, if someone's swapping into like a 4-turn fast move as an example, and you've got a 2-turn fast move, they are always going to take 1 turn to swap out of that lead matchup, so you can actually go for 6 fast moves and then fire off the charge move and still be throwing on good timing, whereas actually by throwing on 5, you give me basically a full Confusion in for free. Anyways, they're going to come in with the Trevenant. We're able to flip that matchup there. Of course, I did still use a shield up against the Empoleon, so I am down a shield, and they also get the perfect farm down with their Swampert up against that Giraffe rig there. I'm going to no-shield this, have to save my shield for the Tapu Koko. I can now outpace them just barely to a Glaciate up against the Swampert, and Glaciate is going to be shielded. At this point, they're now debuffed. I definitely cannot shield here. They should probably swap back into Empoleon, and they do exactly that. So I probably should have just read that they would swap immediately there. I should have come in with the Tapu Koko straight away, but I'm going to shield the Hydro Cannon. Going to try and commit to a farm down, but we don't get that farm down. And what's going to be even worse for me, we also still don't get the farm down. I thought we got the farm down there, and unfortunately, since we don't reach the Nature's Madness, I'm not going to reach back-to-back charge moves on the Kyurem. The opponent throws, well, I'm at 1 HP and a Dream just to make sure that they get the KO there, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up in there, into the next battle, we're going to see a Togekiss in the lead. So a bit of an awkward matchup for me. The opponent is then going to make it even more awkward as they swap out. They make a very nice catch there, catching onto a Shadow Typhlosion. Now, I don't know, did they get a full Incinerate through there as they swapped out? I think they probably did, as they full send the Blast Burn, but now I can just go for a full farm down there. Honestly, not that bad for me. Of course, I'm down a shield, but they come back in with the Togekiss. I can go straight for back-to-back Psychic Fangs. First one, honestly, not going to do that much damage at all, but the second one is going to grab a shield from the opponent. They're going to stay in. Confusion's really chunking at the moment, and they have to throw a move here. If they commit to a full farm down, I'm just going to deal way too much damage, but now we can come in with the Tapu Koko. The opponent has farmed up to a potential Dazzling Gleam, but I'm going to no-shield anyways. It is just a Side Shock there. Their final Pokemon going to be a Belly Bolt, and this is game over. Of course, they've got the option to boost up the defense, but I'm going to debuff them immediately, and now I'm going to go for a Glaciate. The opponent is over-farming, which probably implies they're going to try and Zap Cannon me here. That is pretty much their only chance of winning this, so I'm going to play it safe. I use the shield. It is the Zap Cannon. They also don't even get a debuff there. The opponent is just going to concede the match. So, GG's up on there, into the next battle, we can see Regidrago in the lead. So this is a fine matchup for me, but they're going to safe swap into Empoleon. We come in straight away with the Tapu Koko, and of course, I will need to shield this because, as I mentioned, we're taking neutral damage from the Metal Sounds. Hydro Cannon is a great charge move. Tapu Koko doesn't have much bulk. The opponent is going to allow the Thunderbolt to go through. Now, that's not too bad for me, considering I know Tapu Koko is going to be great into their Regidrago, but they've got a Shadow Sizzle as their third Pokemon, and that really is not ideal. ideal. Of course, Shadow Sizzle is also very problematic for my team, especially with Tapu Koko so low. They don't commit to the full farm down, which is quite nice for me, but they do go for a Night Slash there. I probably would have preferred if they went for Trailblaze, because that would mean they would be slightly slower to the charge moves. But here, they fire off the Night Slash. I'm going for Psychic Fangs. I'm hoping to grab the final shield. I need to grab the final shield, but the opponent does correctly save a shield for the Regidrago. We come in with the Kyurem. I'm going to overfarm here, hoping this is going to throw off their counts just a little bit, and that might allow me to reach a second charge move, but the opponent, literally perfect timing there. As I'm reaching the next move, they go for the Dragon Energy, and now they can outpace me to the next Dragon Energy, and they might be debuffed in their attack stat, but it doesn't matter. It easily takes that Giraffe Rig, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up in there into the next battle. Going to see Belly Bolt in the lead. So this is a fine matchup for me. They are going to be on Sucker Punch, so slightly worse, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to look to throw here. Going to go for a Glaciate just before they do reach a Parabolic Charge. The opponent going to no-shield that. They then swap into Shadow Typhlosion, and now we're going to come in with the Shadow Giraffe Rig. Now, I don't really need Switch Advantage here. I'm just making sure my Giraffe Rig isn't aligned to the Belly Bolt, where, of course, those Sucker Punches are going to hit for super effective. So here we actually go for a slight undercharge, just in case they no-shield. I could then go for a full farm down, but they end up shielding there. It doesn't really make a difference. Like I mentioned, I don't need Switch Advantage because Tapu Koko going to completely wall them as well. So here we go for the full farm down. The opponent is going to come back in with the Belly Bolt. They're going to throw straight away here, which is fine with me. Of course, this is just going to be a Parabolic Charge. I'm now going to go for a Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness going to debuff the defense stat right back down. And now I'm going to swap into my Kyurem. The opponent's final Pokemon is a Skeleturge. Now, this is really tricky, but you know what? I'm full sending. Draco Meteor, not respected. It puts them into perfect farm down range. The opponent realizing it's now game over, and so they just concede the match. Feel like they had to call the bait there, though, so that is a bit tricky for them. But into the next battle, we're going to see a Lapras in the lead. So I'm going to swap out straight away here, and we're met with a Togekiss. But this is fine with me. I can go straight for Psychic Fangs. And again, if they no-shield the first one, we've seen this already, I can just shield and then go for a full farm down. So this is actually a really positive matchup for me. They go for the Aura Sphere, don't really care. We come out with back-to-back Psychic Fangs already loaded. And you know what? I'm going to go for a Trailblaze first, because Trailblaze is going to hit for super effective damage. We actually already have another Trailblaze. I should have just gone for Trailblaze, but surely they shield. No, they actually no-shield that, so I should have just gone for Trailblaze. Could have been double boosted, and I don't know what they've got in the back there, but a double boosted Shadow Giraffe Rig would have just put in insane work, and they do have a Florges. So this is actually not over yet. This can be quite tricky for me. I can go for Glaciate, and here I have to just call that they're going to bait with a Chilling Water. The opponent obviously does there, and now we can go for another Glaciate. This isn't going to do that much damage really, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to double debuff them, so even if they go and full send a Moonblast, it's not going to deal that much damage. We come in with a Tapu Koko. They can go for Chilling Water. They can actually reach another one before I even reach my first Nature's Madness, but this is still fine. I can still swap out and clear the debuff eventually. I'm going to wait here just to make sure they don't try and catch onto Lapras. Nature's Madness is going to grab the final shield, and now I will also use my final shield. I'm pretty close to the charge move, but I'm actually going to swap out into my Kyurem here. The opponent tries to catch the charge move, it backfires, and now, of course, they've cleared their debuffs, but it doesn't matter. We could have got the KO with the Glaciate, so they concede the match. So, GG's top on there is the next battle. I'm going to see Rapidash in the lead. That is really cool to see. Unfortunately, not the best lead matchup for me. This time, I do manage to swap out there and time my confusions so that if they did throw, it would have been on alignment. However, it doesn't really help me because they've got a Guzzlord, so once again, just completely destroying this Giraffe Rig save swap. Honestly, I don't know what the best combination of moves to go for there is. Should I go for 3 Psychic Fangs? Should I go for 2 Trailblazes? Should I have done what I did there and go for a Psychic Fangs and a Trailblaze? I don't really know. They blind throw a Crunch here, but I'm going to shield the next move and they full send the Sludge Bomb, so I'm happy with that shield. Now we can outpace them to a Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness is going to be no-shielded. The opponent's going to come in with a Tentacruel, and honestly, I don't really see a win condition for me. I'm going to full send a Thunderbolt anyways. I think baiting is definitely my lose condition, but they do end up shielding there. I have to no-shield this. That Rapidash does have a ton of energy already. They go for a debuff there with the Acid Spray. Doesn't really make a difference. We can fire off the Glaciate, debuffing their attack stat, but the opponent is at 80 energy already. I'm going to show the first move. They actually go for a Scorching Sands, which is... I don't really know why you would run Scorching Sands when this Pokemon does also have access to Drill Run, but either way, the second one gets the KO there, and they can just fully Incinerate Farm me down, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there into possibly the final battle of this video, going to lead into Virizion. So all three Pokemon on my team have played into this Pokemon. However, they're all sort of iffy matchups aside from Giraffe, which is slightly positive, but even then, still not that great, all things considered. But anyways, they're going to come in with a Charizard. If they bait with an Air Cutter and they don't boost, then I can now just commit to a full farm down. This is just going to be another Air Cutter. It's going to do quite a lot of damage, actually, but it does not get the KO. So now we've got very close to back-to-back Psychic Fangs already banked. We fire off the first one. They no shield there. That boosted Confusion does big damage, and the opponent will be forced to throw. Of course, they go for Leaf Blade. I'm now going to come in with my Tapu Koko straight away, expecting the opponent to swap out immediately, and they do exactly that. They swap into Florges. I'm going to no shield this. As always, actually, never mind. I was going to say, as always, they go for a Chilling Water, but nope, they go for a Trailblaze there, boosting up their attack stat. That's fine with me. I'm going to debuff their defense there, and now come in with the Kyurem and go for a Glaciate. But the fact that they went for a Trailblaze pretty much implies that Chilling Water is going to be their second move, so they don't have any Fairy-type charge move damage. So here, I can just comfortably no shield. They do make a very nice catch, however, catching a Glaciate onto Virizion, but Virizion did have energy anyways, so I kind of need to land that damage regardless. Now, of course, to come back in, I'm still debuffed here, but I've put them into range where hopefully I can fully farm them down. They are now debuffed as well. They go for Chilling Water, debuffing my attack stats, but can I tank this move? The opponent goes for Trailblaze, but we're able to tank it, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.